back to playing the game. We're in double digits. Thank you for everyone who has supported the last 10 episodes. I appreciate you guys so much. Today's episode, I sit down with Brendan Turton. Brendan is a strength, triathlon, running, and Ironman coach here on the Gold Coast, working out of multiple pools and has his own tri community. So we sit down and we talk all things running, training, triathlon, Ironman, goal setting, motivation, all the things that are going to make you a better athlete, runner, triathlete than some of you out there might even want to do an Ironman. So I appreciate you listening. Let's go. Doing the GC50 2 weeks next week.
Next week.
Next week. Yep. What's the projected time?
Well, we're looking at, I'm starting off 4:40 pace.
Okay.
And then I'm going to do that for the first 25. Mm-hmm. And then potentially negatively split that. So,
negative split for someone who doesn't know, yeah.
Yep. So basically that means that I'll start a little bit slower than what I think I can do. And then potentially, if I'm feeling really good, I'll drop my pace down. So I'll drop from 4:40 to 4:30 roughly, which hopefully that would get me in at, I'd be happy with like anywhere between 3:30 to 4 hours. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how we go. This week, I'll map it out a little bit more because I don't like to map things in too early until I actually know how my body is really feeling. But cool. Super excited for it.
Yeah, love it. Just love that. When do you remember your first ever sort of race? What was it? How far was it?
First race. So it was back in 2020. I'm from Melbourne. Well, I moved to Melbourne to pursue teaching as well. So first one was when COVID was on. I was like a bit lost in life, didn't know where to go. So I started running. I was always a pretty good runner, like sporting backgrounds, AFL as well. And then first event that came up was a half marathon. So I went straight into the half marathon. I thought, why not? So I started training with a friend. We were both locked down. We lived pretty close to each other. So we were inside that zone that they set. And then we started training together. And basically that first, I guess, half marathon just gave me that addiction. And I absolutely loved it from there. So it's just pretty good. Seems
to be the common trend, just COVID, running, and just falling in love. I started a little bit later. My COVID love was golf. I got really into golf for a few years.
Yeah,
I've dropped off now, moved into the running life. But yeah, I feel like it was either golf or running. You sort of got that phase. I just need some fresh air. What did that first marathon or half marathon teach you?
A lot of things, to be honest. A lot of my runs at the start were just go for a run, go as hard as I can. So I remember looking back at some of my past like runs, you know how Strava pops up with your past runs. And I was running every run at like 4:20s, 4:15s, doing like, 5 to 10Ks. And that was a big learning for me because I've quickly found out that that's not how you train. You have to change up your running to give yourself variations, to let yourself recover, do those different types of runs, which, I've learnt along the way, as well as getting some injuries prior to my first marathon prep. So first one was an absolute disaster.
First marathon or first injury?
First marathon. So basically I went from doing the half marathon and I quickly went, I love this stuff. I'm doing a full marathon next. And that was actually meant to be up here. And I was just coaching myself, very novice in the running space, but I thought, why not? I'll give it a go. And it's just funny what you do, like the things that you just don't know because you haven't been brought into that environment or were in that environment early. So really what happened was I trained the house down, was doing some of those quick sessions basically all the time, trying to push the limits there. But basically I got a stress reaction in the 2 weeks prior to the marathon.
Where?
Which... it was actually my lower leg, so the fibula, down the bottom. And basically, I was running super hard. My brain was like, 3:10 straight away. I'll do something like that. And then that came up, and it basically came up, and I was like, it's just a little niggle, it'll go away in the second week before. And then I kept pushing through it, and it came to a stage where I actually couldn't like walk properly. And therefore, had to go get an MRI. And stress reaction. If I kept going, would have been a stress reaction, a stress fracture.
Yeah, okay.
So, which means almost, that 4 to 6 months off. So, yeah, physio gave me the hard word, you should pull out. And at the time, it was the worst thing that's like so devastated. Like I put in 12 to 16 weeks to get there and then had to pull out. But it's looking back at that now, it was probably one of the best lessons I've learned.
I resonate with that a little bit, not as much as a 12-week block into a full marathon, but before my half marathon, I injured my calf like 2 weeks beforehand.
Yep.
And I just pretty much couldn't run for, 2-3 weeks before leading into it. And then I'm like, ran the day before, it's feeling good, I'll do it. I think I got about 11 Ks in, and it just started hurting. But I don't know, I had Goggins in the back of my head and just finished it and got it done. But
Congrats.
then couldn't really run for another month after that because it was just in that much pain going. And I've obviously haven't learned my lesson because I'm currently training for High Rocks and I have the same injury. And so what is it, 2 weeks out? So I went to the physio, and I think it's such an important lesson, and we could probably touch on it, is just that prehab is just, as you sort of said, you just go hard, you're going fast, and you're such a novice, and I'm still such a novice into the running space, so I still got heaps to learn, but it's always do a few slow runs. I enjoy doing that, but you just go hard in your body. You just got to be able to listen to your body and realize it's probably time to just slow down a little bit.
I definitely do agree with you there. Like at the start, you don't really understand like how your body's going to respond to things, but yeah, most importantly, you need to learn those lessons and reassess and think about why is it continually happening, like with your calf as well. Have you heard the story about the old Chinese farmer?
I have, but tell us.
Tell us. So I'm bringing this in because I feel that with my injuries, it kind of relates to it very nicely. So really what it is, a Chinese farmer, he's in a village because he's a farmer. Basically, the village he has a horse, basically, and that horse runs away, and the villagers ask him, they say, oh, that's bad luck. And he says, well, maybe. And then the next day, the horse comes back with a flock of more horses again, and then they change their mind and say, that's good luck this time. And he says, maybe. And then the next day or the following days, his son jumps on one of those new horses, falls off, breaks his leg, and the villagers again say, that's bad luck. And he says, maybe. The next day, the army comes to take away his son. They're trying to gather up all the young men to go to war. And because he's broken his leg, doesn't have to go. So the villagers say, that's good luck. And he says, maybe. But for me, when I bring that back to the injury, at the time, I thought it was really bad luck. But really looking at it, it was nor a good thing nor a bad thing. I actually learnt my lesson. And now I've applied those lessons to the people that I coach now as well. So another injury that I've had is tendonitis in my knee, the old runner's injury. Yeah. And I've had so many people come to me that I coach that have got that. But now, because I've actually experienced those injuries myself, I know exactly how to help them out. So maybe it was a good thing, maybe it wasn't.
Maybe. That's a cool perspective. I just finished Matthew McConaughey's book, and he has a similar, it's called Green Lights. I don't know if you've read it or listened to it, but his big thing is talks about green lights and red lights. And at the time, a bad situation could be a red light, but looking back on the future, he's like, it was actually a green light. And it's very similar to like that perspective. You spoke about coaching, spoke about injuries. How's your coaching going? Give it a bit of a plug while you're going.
Yep. Absolutely loving coaching. And my background is teaching as well. So, Mr. Luke, we have some things in common. I love teaching and I love coaching together. So I've mashed them together. And while I coach people, I try to bring in some teaching aspects so that my clients will actually, I'm not just giving them exercises. I'm actually explaining to them like why we're doing that.
You do, we do, I do.
Yeah, basically. Yep. And then I try to do that active recall to them all the time. So can you just repeat what I said there? Those check for understandings.
Little choral response, yeah.
that we like to throw on them. But yeah, I've also just then brought in a community as well. It's called Gold Coast Social Tri Club, which I am trying to get you to come.
I'm gonna get there one day. I actually have been keen. We'll chat off air, but I want to do the GC Mara next year.
Awesome.
So, and I want to do a half Ironman. I'm still throwing that up in the air. So I will be coming to you for some coaching very soon.
No, that's good. And I guess through my coaching experiences, there are a lot of misconceptions that people have about endurance training, strength and conditioning. In the triathlon space, there's a big misconception that to be able to do it, you need to be able to swim well. So recently I've had a lot of stories about my friends and clients as well that actually can't swim at all. And they think, I can't do a triathlon now. But really, the swimming aspect of the triathlon is such a small part. And if you get coached, jump in the pool and do the thing, you start to pick it up. You just got to put in the reps. Like I've had one of my good friends, actually, I won't say his name.
Call him out.
I won't call him out. He was so scared of like the water and the swim. And his mindset was like, I don't think I can do this right now because of the swim. And we repeatedly just said to him, you can do this. It's such a small part. You just need to jump in, get those laps in, fix up your style a little bit. We put on a wetsuit as well, which really brings up our body.
Does it? Okay,
Yeah.
I need that tip.
It's a good tip. And especially in the salt water as well. It just brings us up and it makes swimming so much easier. So for anyone out there that thinks you can't do swimming, can't do a triathlon because you can't swim, that's a huge misconception.
I can attest to that because I'm not a great swimmer.
Yeah.
How many have I done now? I've done two triathlons now, and the last one, it was the longest time. I did the entire style, so I think it's 750 swim.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I was in the same round, the same heats as the Clydesdales. So the only people that anyone doesn't ask the bigger fellas, I think it's over like 100 kilos, maybe 110.
Yeah.
I was in like the same heat as them, and only two of those boys were behind me. I was third last out of the water, and I didn't even care. I was just like, just don't stop. But as bad as I actually found the swim leg the easiest. Because you're so fresh, it's a pretty hot day as well. So I'm in the water and I'm like, it's actually good because the rest is so leg heavy as well.
Yeah.
Like you got your bike and then you run, and it's just in the swim. Obviously, you got to use a little bit of legs, but so much upper body. So you're feeling refreshed and you get out of there, and then you go on just don't worry about the swim for sure.
100%. And it's like it's the first leg of 3. So you just knock it out, get it out of the way while you're the most fresh. And I believe literally anyone can do a triathlon and learn how to swim at any age, to be honest. So that's something that they need to have a think about and have a chat to a coach or someone to learn the basics as well, if you really need to.
Well, let's break down each leg. Let's go
Yep.
swimming. Give us 1, 2, 3 tips, basics of swimming.
Yep. Okay. So swimming, if you're not a confident swimmer, the best thing that you can do is start swimming. It's pretty simple. Jump in, do those laps. I would start with a 25-meter pool or a 20-meter pool just to get used to, like, 50 meters is a long way if you haven't swum in a while. So just jump into the 25, start, learning the stroke, basically the stroke. And if you're not confident at all, there's plenty of coaches out there that would be happy enough to just give you a few tips. Or even everyone knows someone that's, pretty good at swimming. So just ask a friend. Come and have a watch of your swim or swim beside you if you're not confident. That's probably my biggest thing about the swim. Just jump in, start getting used to it, and then start progressing from your 25 to 50. And then from your 50, go to an open water thing. And that's another reason why I've created a community, so that people are like, I'm unsure about swimming. You come to one of our free sessions and we'll give you some basic tips to get started and give you the confidence to start moving, start getting better at swimming as well, with a group of other people as well that are in the same boat. There's always someone there that can help you out.
I love that. My feed's very full at the moment of swimming tips because I got out of the water one day and I was like, I need some help. So I just chucked on the YouTube. Obviously, in-person coaching, definitely go down to the club. But even if it's just like your little YouTube, just get the bait. If you're so embarrassed you can't tell anyone, quick YouTube, 5-minute video, you'll be able to get a few basic tips to get that confidence to then go in person and join the community and help out.
Yeah. A lot of people will jump into the water and just try and swim as hard as they can, but you just really need to slow down your stroke. Swimming is very technique based. So you can get the fittest person in a pool, But if they don't have the technique, they're not going to get any better.
Let's go stage 2. Try the bike. What are some basics of the bike? What would you tell a novice coming in?
Yep. So I would also say this is a misconception as well for triathlon, that you need to have the best bike and everything like that. To get into triathlon, just start off with a basic road bike. Find something on Marketplace, ask some friends, maybe borrow a friend's bike as well. And therefore, you don't even have to put on tri bars. That's another optional thing that you can do of a cost of $50. Put a set of tri bars on and then start getting used to riding. The thing about riding, though, in triathlon, it's probably the most important part. And people think that because majority of people know how to ride a bike, that they're not going to practice it. But you need to put in the time on the bike. Especially, it's a good one to actually do your zone 2 training, where your heart rate's really low and you can get the volume in as well. And once you progress from, your smaller sprint tri to your Olympic to then your 70.3 Ironman, it becomes even more important than cycling. So biggest tip, just buy a bike, get into it. Don't look at the professionals and what they've got. They're spending ridiculous amounts of money, but they are professionals. So just start off with the basics, grab a bike, go for a ride, try and map out a route as well so you know exactly where you're going. Or again, join a community. To give you those like basic tips, getting used to like cleats as well.
That's
a big thing.
That's a big one.
Yeah, I would say like a big thing is I know numerous times myself I've fallen off a bike because of the cleats. You're locked in and you just forget and you just fall over to the side. Have you had the same thing?
Not majorly. The first time I used them, I was like just the one leg and doing the side trying to get off. Didn't have a full stack, but it was funny for everyone watching. I'll give you that much.
But yourself, right?
Yeah. I try to find a little bit of humor in it.
Oh, 100%. But, and I would say with that as well, if you are trying out your cleats, just go to a parking lot or somewhere like, on the Gold Coast, we have the place called The Spit. It's a very like straight and narrow road. Well, it's actually pretty wide in spots, but minimal cars as well. So it's a really safe space. I wouldn't recommend riding on a busy area for that first time. Just get used to it as well.
Last leg of the try, the run. What are some basic tips?
The best part, I would say. Running is my favourite thing by far. I would say the biggest tip is, it's probably before you get to the day, is actually do some brick sessions. So that basically means doing a session of riding and then jump off the bike and go for a run to get used to that feeling of bike legs where your quads are burning because you've just come off the bike. So I'd say if you haven't practiced that, that's probably the number one thing to do, brick sessions prior to the lead up to a triathlon. So then you know the feeling, your body's adapted, had that stimulus and you've recovered, and then you can go from there. It's
a very unique feeling.
It is.
You get off and it's like you can't really feel your legs. It's sort of like they're just moving. It's like they're just ticking over. I remember the first time I did it, I was like, what is this? Because I didn't do one beforehand. The first one I did was Triathlon Pink. So it was like I think it was shorter than an entire, so it was like a very beginner. So it was like 400 swim.
Yeah.
5K to maybe 10K ride and like a 3K run. So I was like, I was playing footy at the time, just finished the season. So I needed a bit of off-season training. I'm like, it'll be sweet. And then, first get off and I'm like, what is this? Your legs feel so heavy, but you can't feel them at the same time. It's so unique.
It's not a great feeling though.
No,
and then, I would say that's probably one of the biggest ones. And then say as you start doing bigger and bigger triathlons, as in like a 70.3, you really need to fuel yourself on that bike leg to then be able to run well and not like walk run for the last leg, because they are big runs getting off the bike.
How many 70.3s you done?
I've done 3 now.
Done 3. Tell us that first one. When you crossed the finish line, what's going through your head? What were you thinking? What were your thoughts?
First one.
Hey, actually, so I'm going to jump in. Can you explain what a 70.3 is first to anyone who doesn't know what it is?
Yep. So a 70.3 is probably your second biggest common triathlon. Basically, the swim is a 1.9K swim. And then you jump out, you run to the change area, the transition area, and then you jump on your bike and you go for a 90K bike ride where you need to fuel yourself, and then you jump off that bike for a half marathon to finish. It's
What else could you want?
Yeah, it's a big one. But then after that you've got a full Ironman, which is crazy.
Have you conquered that yet?
Have not conquered that.
Okay.
It's on the list for next year.
Yeah,
and
nice.
I've locked it in for May, so I'm
Cool. You booked it?
pretty excited for that.
Nice.
I've booked it. That's Port Macquarie, and I'm trying to build a decent crew to come with me as well, because another thing with triathlon and a misconception is people think it's like an individualized sport, like it's just you. And I knew with running, I would always go out running with myself or my one friend that I had. And really, it's not a singular like sport, individualized. You've got people that are always training as well. You just need to be able to find that group that you can train with and push each other. And in the lead, obviously on the day, it's you doing it yourself. It's just you against yourself, really. But you need people to train with along the way. It makes it so much enjoyable. You have a bit of a joke as well, and you push each other to those limits. So community is key. And if you don't have a community in your place, maybe think about, can you move to a place that maybe has one, or can you create one yourself?
We spoke, so I reckon nearly every episode of that I've done this now, all 10 of them, but such a common theme is community and environment, and how important it is to have a strong environment around you to help you succeed on those goals. And whether it's running, swimming, biking, or I'm doing high rocks at the moment, business, it's just like, it's so important to have those people around you. And I spoke last week how I'm doing high rocks training at the moment, so that's where my sort of energy is going, and just having a good crew around you. But even it's sort of hard to find a crew who has similar goals with you sometimes, which is hard. On the Gold Coast, we're pretty blessed with people. It's very full, and there seems to be a very fitness buzz going through. Hopefully it's not a buzz, hopefully it stays, but it is easier in this environment. But even like niche things like the business or entrepreneurship, sometimes it can be so hard to find people. Like, how do you finding people to learn from through your coaching? Do you find you learn from teaching people, or have you found finding people with that coaching aspect?
I would definitely say a combination of both. For myself, I wasn't always like this, but I really like learning basically on the spot by doing things. But in past times, I would say when I was a bit younger, less confident, I would definitely sit back and try and study everything. But I feel like there's only so far that you can go with studying. You need to actually apply that. And once I, taught more, got out to schools, spoke in front of people, practiced developing my own confidence, I was generally a lot more happier to jump into things and just give it a go. And I feel like it's exponentially grown me in a way. Do you feel something similar with that too?
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, I enjoy reading and I love watching things, but I go through phases where I just absorb things. So like, I'll go through a phase where it's just learn, YouTube, read, and then I'll go through periods when it's just do. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that it's usually split, but it's usually I'll go on just YouTube is like my favorite thing to do and just watch all these videos. And then I'll just have periods of months where I'm like, I hate watching or listening or taking in new information. Yep. I just need to go and try the things and get the immediate feedback, so then I can implement it and trial again. Yep. Then I get to a stage maybe where I don't know where to go from now. So that's when I'll go back to my YouTube, soak in all I can, or reading or talking to people. And then it's boom, implement. Because I agree. You can't grow without doing. You can sit and read all the books and watch all the videos and have all the plans, but until the Mike Tyson coincidentally is fighting today, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So you don't really know what obstacles you have until you get in the arena and you try things. And you need to be able to fail a lot before you make any progress.
100%. And I think we are super fortunate that in this era of our life, we can go and watch YouTube. If you are in a lonely place where like those communities don't exist, there's that social presence that you can go search it up, listen to podcasts. I know Chris Williamson talks about like his lonely phase, but where you're kind of like you don't fit in where you are currently, but you want to move to a new place, and it does feel super lonely. But you can listen to podcasters, watch YouTube in that era while you're trying to develop to find your next group. And you may not be able to move straight away, but put things into place to try and find those people to move yourself forwards. Like, life is all about change. There's last night I was reading a book. What was it? It was The Daily Stoic.
Yeah, okay. I've heard of it. Haven't read it.
It's great. Basically, every day you get like a small little passage about the ancients. A lot of it's like Marcus Aurelius as well. And last night, the one that I read was basically the river is always changing, and so is the man. So if you jump into the river, it's always changing. If you come back the next day, it's changed. And the moral of that is like, just like allow yourself to make those changes in life. Now, I don't know, I've had people in the past say things like, yeah, you've changed. Don't take that as a bad thing. That's
a compliment.
That's an absolute compliment. But even if they might mean that in a negative way, take it as a compliment, because change is great.
100%. I actually referred, I didn't think it was Chris Williamson or where I got it from, but I realized now that he said that. But yeah, that stage where you're trying to get to that next place, that next level, and it is hard sometimes because as it is, it's called the lonely phase for a reason, but there's just so much to learn from there, and you could take it back to the horse story with the Chinese farmer. It's like at the time you look back and you're like, oh man, what's going on? But then I'm sure in the future, like, you just can be so thankful that you did change and you did take on shoulders and you started to grow. Back to more of the coaching and the training of the tri, you talked about fuel on the ride, how important it is. What are some of the key basics of fueling, either the night before, what's your favorite carb load meal, or then and race day and training days, things like that?
I would go back to a quick analogy. So nutrition, really. How do you fuel your car? You put fuel in it. So it's the same as like our own body. You need to fuel that to be able to perform. Without that fuel, you're not going to be able to perform. So really understanding like the basics, as in what our number one fuel source is for like running, etc. And that's carbohydrates. We need to get plenty of that into our body to be able to perform. And then there's those other aspects of when you are like doing longer distance running or triathlon, you need to also hydrate yourself and give yourself adequate carbohydrates throughout an event to be able to continue to perform. You don't want to do a race that's longer than 1 hour and not have any gels. Basically, you'll deplete yourself of, hopefully you've carb loaded prior to that. You'll end up depleting yourself, and then you'll get towards the back end of the race where you're probably thinking, oh, now I'm going to have something, I'm feeling depleted. It's too late. You need to fuel yourself. One thing that I live by, when I'm doing an event that's longer than that 1 hour, I'll take a gel every half an hour, which at the moment I am taking Morton gels, which are 25 grams of carbs. So every hour I'll get 2 of them in, which is 50 grams. Some people vary with how much they take. I've heard of people doing up to like 90 grams an hour, which is crazy, but like they are like the professionals that are like burning things. And
probably
if you can get
faster speeds, so like burning more calories per hour.
100%. And then you've just got to make sure that you are getting that in, as well as not just water. You need your sodium, your potassium, and things like that to be able to continue to perform. It's a funny one actually in triathlon. People pee themselves all the time, and that's actually not a good thing. It means that you don't actually have enough sodium in your body to retain that water that you are taking in, and therefore you pee. Mm-hmm. And if you think about you're in a huge event and you're peeing, there's no way your body 100% needs that water still. But because you aren't getting that sodium in, then the electrolytes, you pee and you're like, that's not a great thing. But carbohydrates, super important. Get on top of that. And prior to doing a race, biggest recommendation is testing out that nutrition prior to your game day, your race.
So you have like a trial run of whatever nutrition you're going to be taking on the day?
Yep. So 2 weeks ago, I did a 32K run. Obviously, I've got that 50K coming up, but I practiced exactly how I would do that. So the race is at 5 a.m. I've woken up super early. I've had my crumpets with my banana, my honey as well, and then some watermelon. They're my go-to things. I know it works for me, but again, I keep testing it out to make sure my guts like react well with that. And then getting my electrolytes in prior to that. And then I do the race, do the training route, and I'll practice that gel every half an hour just to know that my body is still good with that as well. So that's a pretty important one. If you get that wrong on the day and you need to go to the toilet and you shit yourself, it's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. All right. Noted.
And then we'll continue on with nutrition. Is that recovery phase. So when you do finish like a hard block of training, make sure you are getting that protein in, even if it's endurance and you've done, 20, 30K. That protein straight after is super important as well. So
do you have a recommendation of how much protein?
I would say at least that 20 to 30 grams.
It's like a protein shake?
Protein shake. There's a drink called, I can never pronounce it right, Rokeby.
Okay.
It's like a milk.
I'll back it.
I absolutely froth it. Okay. That's my go-to. I'll drop that. It's got 30 grams of protein in there. Plenty of carbohydrates. Electrolytes in there as well. So go-to is a milk drink for me.
That's fair.
And Rokeby.
Use my code. Use my code to check out. What is your night before? What's your favorite carb loaded meal? What are you looking to before you're racing?
Yep. I go off a pizza.
Yeah.
I absolutely froth it. But it's a pizza that, again, I've tested. You don't want to just like go away and have a random pizza because it will come into how you feel the next day. So if it's like, I don't know, a pizza and it's got something different to it and you react to that poorly, you might be a celiac, and if you have some gluten, you're in trouble the next day. I just say that because my younger brother's celiac, and I know he's tried different things the night before and he's reacted with that little bit of gluten.
Wouldn't be good on race day.
My go-to is pizza. What about you?
Yeah, pizza's a pretty good one. I think before I did the half, I can't remember if was that pizza or pasta? Yeah, just the two with a big fat loaf of garlic bread.
Or go off that rice.
Yeah, I love rice myself, but the night before, I don't know, it's just something about pizza or pasta that I can just get around. I just eat I think like even just a good old spaghetti with a loaf of garlic bread, that is a treat.
Does that bring back core memories before like your rugby days? Like, I don't know, sport the next day?
Yeah. My nutrition when I was younger was awful. I'd probably just have pizza every night instead. So, but yeah, I definitely was, because I did a bit of track as well, a bit of running. So when I started to get a bit older and understood about the carbing loading a bit more, as always, before a big event, I was a pizza when I was younger for sure.
Yeah.
Love that. How do you stay disciplined and motivated when you're getting up in the morning to go for runs that you just don't want to do?
Yeah. And that's the thing. A lot of people like will assume that I absolutely love like getting up every day and doing this, like going for that run every day, but I definitely don't. And I know this is a big thing that, the likes of, I'm not comparing myself to David Goggins at all. I'm, very down here compared to him, but I like to take more like small aspects of what he says because he's some of the things I don't agree on, or I think, that's crazy. But I'll take things like that from him, and the days that you don't want to do it, they are 100% the most important. And I know on a podcast that David Goggins was on with, who's the big guy, does all the facts, Huberman.
Yep.
He spoke about the developing your AMC, and you can only really develop that when you don't want to do something.
Is that the one where Huberman, they talk about you have to do things you don't want to do? So Huberman would go for a run, and the thing he didn't want to do was run up his driveway. So every time we go for a run, he gets to his driveway, he's like, I don't want to do it. And he's like, oh, no, that means I have to do it, because he starts strengthening that muscle.
Yep. And it just builds that little bit of that muscle in your brain. Obviously, it's not a muscle, but it builds that, discipline and the ability to be able to get up and go for it. Because if, you have that day that you can't do it, and then you come to that race day and you're feeling the same thing, but you've been there before, you're kind of like, no, you can back yourself a little bit more. Or if you're feeling that, everything's perfect, that darkness that you've been through before, and you feel that much more confident as well. So yeah, growing that muscle in that head is super important. And don't get me wrong, I'm human. I've had days where I've missed as well. But listening to little clips like that, I'm like, I'll take that out and that'll keep me going.
Remember when I was probably 16, 17, I had one of those I downloaded like a YouTube video of like one of those motivational things, and that was my alarm. So it was just like the alarm's going off. It's like, get up out of bed. And there was just little things like that. It was so random. I think I snoozed it anyway, went back to sleep. But they do help. There's some of the clips that you just sort of have. You just got to find what works for you. Like for me, it's just that muscle. Like I've been getting up at least like 5 o'clock's like a little bit of like just sleeping. Like 5:30 is definitely a sleeping. Like
on the Gold Coast anyway.
Yeah, like 5 o'clock. Like my body. Like this morning, I went out, had a cousin's graduation, got home like 10:30. But by like 10 to 5, my body's just like, okay, we're awake now. And it's just that routine. And I'm just doing it for so long now that it's just becomes that muscle of all right.
You've developed a good habit.
What you got to do. It's what you got to do.
Yeah.
There's still days where I'll get up at 5 and not like still don't want to do it, and I'll just like it's a work day instead. And like today, I'm just focusing on something. But I think it's so important to have a plan.
Yeah.
One thing I really try to do, I off the rails a little bit, but writing my plan the night before. I think that's so important to be able to go. You just takes away that decision. Every day you make decisions, you get decision fatigue. So it's like if I can go to sleep and wake up and know exactly what I have to do for each hour of my day, it just makes it so much easier. And then I try to do on the Sunday is then write down like the workouts, and having like a coach would be so much handy to be able to go, oh, this is my plan. This is my exact, I can't change it. Once someone gives it to you, that's locked in.
Yeah, no, that's such a great thing to do. And it's even like small things like putting your clothes out too. So then you wake up and you see it and you already know it's there. Or another little hack, like I absolutely love all of them as well. Like you're structured, so you know what you're doing. Another little hack would be having a plan, as in to catch up with a friend as well. Just keeps you that little bit extra more accountable. Yeah. Or if it's like you go to a community, we got so many run clubs up here or tri clubs, and you've messaged someone at that run club and you've said, I'm coming, you're more likely to go.
100%.
And I do that all the time.
We spoke about with Brett last week, and he had said the same thing. And one thing he sort of said was, if I message you and say I'm going, my mind's already there. I'm done. It's locked in. And even if you message, and this is what Brett said, even if you message him the next morning and say I'm pulling out, he's like, doesn't matter. Like I'm there. I'm going to be there. And I agree. I remember during those winter months last year, one of my mate and I would go for runs, and Monday, Thursdays we'll be there. And it was just, we'll be there. It's like, and there's so many mornings I'd get there and be like, you're so lucky we have this locked in. Otherwise, I was sleeping in today, especially those winter mornings. Oh, they're tough. They are so tough.
They are, down in Melbourne, they're tough. Up here for me, I absolutely love winter up here. It's just a dream, but and that's another thing. It's like, but you don't know any difference because you've always lived up here as well. But yeah, putting that plan together, super important. And it does come back to having those goals set in life too, which helps you create. There's a saying that I live by, and it's called create your own luck.
Like that.
And basically how that works for me is I set out my goals at the start of the year. I review that every month. So I know that it's kind of in my reticular. And I'm always thinking, how can I get to that goal? The decisions that I make today will affect tomorrow. So what can you do today that's going to help you tomorrow? That's
one thing. Yourself.
Yeah, that's the one thing I live by. And a massive part of that is writing down goals for me. And I've actually got a little gift for you today as well.
Oh, a little gift.
It's called the Goal Digger. It's a daily planner as well. But at the start of it, this is for 2025. You write all your values, and then you work your way to your goals. And you look at your strengths as well prior to that before writing your goals. And then you write down your goals, your 5 biggest ones and some small ones as well. Just having that written down gets into your reticular and then it comes back to daily. On the daily, are you doing the things that align to your goals and your values? And then every month you can review that as well. So what I have done in the past is I've always given these to some of my friends and we create a bit of a group. I had heard it on a podcast before and we've called it the Elephant Group.
Yeah.
So we'll actually check in with each other monthly about our goals and
Yeah.
have we hit them.
Yeah.
And you're a part of my group now.
There we go. I love that. I was actually, before you added that last bit on about how you had that group, I was actually going to say, I sort of touched on it with the running and the getting there. It's like, it's so important to have someone that you tell your goals to. Because, yeah, I write them down, and writing down goals is actually, like, I've been really studying psychology and motivation and goals. And that's one of the things they say is, like, I think it's like you're 30% more likely to achieve your goals by writing them down. And then it was like 60%. Don't fact check these numbers, but like 60% if you consistently check them and actually read them. So it's like 30% write them down, get them do it. But then it's like, okay, are you checking on them weekly? Have I hit the micro steps to get to that major goal? And another thing was also the accountability is like, oh, if I tell you I'm setting this goal, then I think it's...
You better do it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I don't know if everyone's like this, but me for sure, like I hate, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I hate being that person that's like, oh, you didn't do it. There's definitely been, don't get me wrong, I don't do everything. Like I'm human, like I make mistakes, but it's like, it hurts me when I don't do the thing I'm going to say. Like if I don't do it, I'm just like...
And twice as much if you've told someone.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Where do you sort of draw inspiration from? You said you listen to a podcast about that. Like, do you have any key people you listen to get ideas and motivation from?
Yeah, I've definitely got a lot. I'll point out some of the main ones, but they are also so far ahead of where I am currently that I don't take everything from them because they are so far ahead. But then I try to find people that are just ahead of me as well to then like learn from because they're going through a stage that, you know, they've just been through to get to where they are. So just realizing that sometimes listening to the people that are like the millionaires or the guys that are doing sub 2:30 marathons, they may not be the right person to listen to right now. But podcasts like Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett, absolutely awesome.
The book is one of the best books. I've listened to audiobooks, probably one of the best audiobooks I've listened to. Really good, recommend.
Yeah, and you take small things, like not everything you take from because it worked for him at that current time, but it's not always going to work now. But yeah, that book's amazing. Highly recommend that. And then you've got people like Chris Williamson. He's more like that psychology based, which when I watched him live, I feel like listening to someone and then being able to actually go and watch them in person is just game changer as well.
Can we pause there? Because I didn't get a chance to go. Tickets sold out before I could. I didn't take action. What did he talk about? What were some of the key lessons you learned from that?
So there was many things that like he spoke about, of course. And during it, there was a young person that actually said like, how do you remember all these like things in your head? How are you able to spit out these quotes, these sayings all the time? And he said basically, if it's not a fuck yeah, that's good, you're not going to remember it.
Yeah.
And the fuck yeah thing that really stood out for me was like, just do the thing. Like, and then he goes on about like, studying is not doing the thing. Reading about thing is not doing the thing, so forth and so forth. You just got to go and do the thing.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I've brought in. It's like starting a community, teaching, it's all scary. Don't get me wrong, but doing the thing is where you grow that little bit of confidence. So the biggest thing that I got from that was, I know it's very basic, but doing the thing just provides you with that confidence.
Basic works though. That's sort of really
simple.
Come to notice over just the growth I've had over the past few years. I was always just so hard and fast and just like looking for hacks and shortcuts and way more than I'd like to admit. And then just probably this last year, definitely, I've just like tried to slow down and just fall in love with the boring. And it's really hard for me, I'm not going to lie. Like I hate boring shit. I'm always just so hard and fast, but it's where the difference is just being able to, I literally read this in, I think it was Atomic Habits a few nights ago. And they asked some coach, and it's like, what's the difference between people that are exceptional and not exceptional? He's like, the exceptional people fall in love with the boring, whereas like they can just go to the gym every single day, no matter what time it is, no matter what weight session it is, and they're just going to continuously do the thing, and they're going to be bored, and that's the difference. All the people who go for a month and like, oh, this is so boring, I'm not making any gains. It's like, yep, it is boring, but you got to be able to fall in love with the boring.
You have to do it. And then like, yeah, the boring part in running is probably sometimes those long runs, those recovery runs where you got to go slow down, which is 80% of your training.
Yeah.
Like it's the boring part, but to get to the race and do the exciting stuff, you've got to get the training and do the boring stuff on a regular. Oh yeah, I absolutely love that. Atomic Habits, so good.
Yeah, I read it a few times. I like to just reread things just because the more you read it, the more it sticks. But there was a little section at the back, and I only read it a few nights ago, and it was like, I forget what the title of it, but it was like just that little bit more. It was like for the people who want to go above and beyond.
Yeah.
And it's like the best part of the book. I don't know if anyone's read it, but I remember like reading that, and I was like, this is gold. Like, it was just like the last little, they have the black pages like for the next chapter.
Yeah.
And it was just there. It's something like 20 pages. And I'll probably just reread that if I read it again. I was like sitting there like, I don't remember any of this. I was where the boring part, and there was just little aspects of it, and just that little last section. So if anyone wants to go back, I'm telling you, that little last section's gold. But it's also because, I'm not tooting my own home, but I've read the first bit and I do them ish well. Like, my habits are one of my strengths at the moment. They ebb and flow, but right now, like, I can consistently say that I could tell you the amount of times I missed the gym over the past 6 months.
That's
like, I'm pretty dialed in that. So that, like, you have to be able to do that first bit to be able to know, okay, how can I habit stack? How can I avoid temptation? How can I do all those little things really well to then be able to get to the 1%? Like, there's no point in you asking what the hacks are and how you can do this, because if you can't do the first bit and you can't do the simple basic stuff, then this stuff's not going to apply to you. So speaking of advancing and getting better, we spoke about the basic entry level, the first few basics of the try in particular.
Yeah.
What are some things that you think, once everyone's done those basics, what are some things that make a difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary?
Ooh, that's a good question. and to just state the fact early, I am not extraordinary. I'm not a professional or anything like that. Like, I'm like down here still.
Yeah.
But I'm on that journey of getting better and better and doing those things as well. And I would think, well, I know that you can't have a balanced life to be able to become extraordinary. You've got to give up things to give time for yourself to do those other things. And right now I'm at that stage where, like, I absolutely love coaching, but I'm pulling back from the face-to-face personal training so then I can improve myself in the triathlon space as well. So even though I love that thing, but I have to sacrifice it to be able to focus again on my own training, to then be able to do that full Ironman that, like, I so much want to do, but I can't do everything at the same time. So giving up that sacrifice to be the best, and that was another thing that popped up in Chris Williams's thing. The best, do you really want their life? Because they've given up so much to get there and become the best at that little thing. So everything comes with a cost.
Yeah, that's it.
And reassess. Are you giving your time to become better in that thing? Or are you you spread thin basically with trying to, spread thin with like trying to do too many things. And you just can't if you want to get good, extraordinary at that one thing. I think. Just
dial in.
I believe that so much.
I definitely agree. I think must have popped up in my newsfeed the other day, but it was very similar in the sense that, like, what are you willing to give up? Like, do you really want Michael Phelps, for example, like, just one of the greatest Olympians of all times, but I would probably imagine he didn't have a life till he retired. Like, he would just be that dialed in. It's like, yeah, you want it, but what are you willing to give up? Like, I want to be really good, but you're skipping your gym sessions. You're not eating your nutrition. You're not even turning up to the gym. Like, how can you say that you want to be the best if you're not doing the habits and things like that?
Or what the best are doing, which is not a balanced life.
No, you have to be a little bit... I always say it for rugby league because I grew up playing rugby league and that's where I coach and my focus, and it's definitely for that sport, but for most sports. But to be rugby league, to be the best, you have to be a little bit crazy. Like, to be able to jump off that back fence. I didn't do this, just to be clear. This is something I did. I was a cat. But, like, to jump off that back fence and just run as hard as you can at the big blokes in front of you and get up and do it again and do it again and do it for 80 minutes and do it the next week and do it for 5 seasons, 10 seasons. Like, you have to be a little bit crazy. But I also think to any sport, to be the best, you have to have a little bit... Like, you tickle, if your oven burns a little bit brighter than most.
You're always looking for that little 1%. How can I gain a little bit more than my opponent?
And that's even in training sessions. I think the best, every training session is a good training session. Whereas like I'm not saying I do this. I have lazy training sessions all the time, but the best, you see the difference in there. Like every session they're going to win. We spoke about, had Todd Carney working at school at the moment. I don't know if you're familiar with rugby league. One of Dally M, like he's really good.
Yeah.
And he called the kids out the other day just because they weren't giving it their all. And it's like, do you want to be the best? Because right now in this training session, you have a chance to get, if we're in the same position, for example, I could get over you in this training session. And like, that's what you got to do. You got to be able to look at the person across from you and say, you're my teammate. I love you, but I'm going to dominate you right now. And I think you got to have a friendly rivalry. And I think it actually, you look at Ronaldo and Messi and LeBron and Kobe. And like,
Let's go back to the king.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan. Who's that? Yeah. But then he had so many in his time as well. It's like, it's actually good to have that little rivalry, to be able to boost yourself up. And it is, I think that's a little hack as well.
And what was his thing? He would create these little stories in his own head, even though they weren't real.
Made it personal.
It was funny. The other day, my brother tagged me in this like little reel. It was like you're doing a little 5K like race. What do they call them? The weekly,
the fun run, the park runs.
The park runs, and you see like someone that's an old person that's past you. I took that personally, and I'm like, that is me to a T. And it's a good and bad thing, but like. Yeah, and then being able, find that community where you know there's people that can push you to be able to become that 1% better every day.
I did.
Yeah, it's funny.
I'm pretty ashamed of this the other day, but I had this girl, not really. There was a lady, she's an older lady, not older, but older than me, swimming next to me the other day. And I said, I'm not a good swimmer. And there was just one race, and she'd beat me on a few laps, and I just took it so personally. I'm like, are you actually serious right now? And we started at the same time for this lap, and I've never swum so fast in my life. And she was staying with me. She didn't even know we were racing, but in my head, I'm like, go. And
so you're doing these ones looking next.
Yeah, I'm just like trying not to make it obvious, but she's just cruising, going along, like staying with me. I think I won because it was...
You were not losing.
I was not losing, but my next 3 laps were so bad because I was so fatigued. But I don't know, it's just even the same thing. If someone runs past me, I'm like, I'll not always pick up my speed, or I'll just tell myself, like, oh, I'm probably running further than they are, though. Like, it's my slow run today. I'm doing a zone 2 today.
Yeah, you shouldn't, like, do that every single day.
Definitely
Stick
not.
to the plan.
Yeah.
But some days it's good to have that competitiveness.
A little bit of rivalry. What is something we haven't touched on that you would like to share with someone who might be getting to running, someone that's getting to triathlon, training, maybe his mindset, health in general?
Yep. I'll go back to, how I spoke about trying to run quick every session, like what I did at the start. I just want to go over a quick little analogy, and that's building either your triangle or your house. So how that works, I'll go off the triangle because it's super basic. You need to build that base first, which is your aerobic capacity. Which makes up your easy runs, your long runs, or your recovery runs. They're the boring ones that we have to do. That's actually where the most important part, that's where you get your gains in any endurance sport. You've got to build that base first. And because I'm a strength coach as well, I like to throw in that you got to condition yourself in the gym as well to be able to reduce the likelihood of getting injured. So that's that first base part. The second part is then your threshold sessions or your interval sessions. Basically, threshold, think lactate threshold. So you want to get your body used to that part as well, where you're actually pushing. I use a scale as well. Rate of perceived exertion. It's a Borg scale where 1 to 10. Your aerobic stuff should be in that 4 to 5. We'll keep it super simple. And then you progress that second part in the triangle, which is your threshold. You're going to bring it up to that 6 to 7. It's not your hardest, which makes up like roughly about that 15%. Super important, but it's not as important as the base. So don't skip the base, which I was just doing the thresholds.
Yeah.
Would get injured. And then the last part is your VO2 speed work, where you're actually fully going for it. And that makes up that little bit of 5% where you get those extra, ability to run at quicker paces and actually build that pace. So if you want to go for that sub 3, that's when those little 5% and 15% become important. But if you're beginning, stick with the aerobic base, develop that first, and then slowly progress to that next part. I would say that's probably one of the biggest things that people need to understand about running, triathlon. It all intertwines together, building that base.
Touching on, expanding on that, is when you run and you only do the thresholds, you also hate it. because it's so hard. Like I have mates and they go and they'll go for runs and they'll just boom, 5 minutes for 5Ks. And like, oh man, that was so hard. I was like, yeah, you haven't run in 6 months and you're trying to go out there and run as fast as you can. Like, don't do that. Like, go and enjoy your run. Like, I think that's also, running can be fun. It's like very therapeutic sometimes. You don't have to go out and just sprint as hard as you can. Like, it's nice to just go out, have a trot, take a friend, have a chat. When you run with a friend, not only does it keep you accountable, but also like you just go so fast. You run 10K with a friend and you'd go into that talking pace at zone 2. It goes so fast. It's actually enjoyable rather than just like, hi, running.
And like a little bit woo-woo with all like, you know, the meditation stuff. I can't sit down and do that breath work. But that running without the AirPods or anything like that by myself, that's my meditation. Could just be 20, 30 minutes, go for that run by myself, like those little recovery runs. And then I'm just thinking about things that are coming up for the day. And then following that, I know not everyone's got a beach to go to, but it could be a river or something like that. I would jump into that after and then walk home. And then I feel so high up here if I know I can start the day well with those small little things of meditation. But yeah.
I agree. A run, swim, double swim.
Could be a gym session.
Yeah. Anything. Just exercise into, even a cold shower. Like if I go gym, I'll usually won't have a hot shower. Like go from gym into a cold shower, just into a coffee. Like I think they're just little basic things. Like it doesn't take much to go for a 30. Like if you go to the gym, just get on the bike for do something for half an hour into some cold water into a coffee, and I guarantee you will not feel worse than when you started.
100%.
What's your superpower?
Ooh, superpower. That's a tough one. I would like to think that this comes back to my values as well. When I say I'm going to do something, like you've said as well, I think my superpower is like showing up and keeping to that commitment that I've made to that person or something that I've told myself. So I would say that superpower is doing that, is that discipline of like, not wanting to do it, but doing it anyway. Yeah.
Nice.
What about yourself? Curious.
I think curiosity maybe. Like I love learning. Like that's why I spoke previously of just about I started different businesses and I get real excited and then I switch off, which is why I'm trying to slow down and just enjoy it. But in each stage of those, I've learned so much, and that's why I enjoy it because it's so new and I know nothing. So it's like, oh, look at all this stuff I'm learning. I'm collecting it. So it's like building my skill sets. I think, curiosity or like the willingness to learn new things. I'm always trying to take, whether it's I'll talk to have a conversation, like what everyone knows something that you don't know. So it's like, all right, what can I learn from you? What can I learn from you? What does this book have for me? So
I can definitely see that in you as well. So when you get that little gold book that I get off you, mate, your strength you're writing in is curiosity.
I like that.
Because you are good at it and you need to keep doing this as well because you've got something here. It's that discipline to keep doing it, keep moving forward.
Go slow to go fast.
You are good.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Do you want to plug yourself, your business, the community?
Hard to do, but obviously I am a strength coach where I do program athletes from beginner to intermediate and to those next stages as well when they want to progress to get that next edge as well. And then I've also got a free community social tri club as well where all our sessions are completely free. At the moment, we've got a swim on a Wednesday night, 6 p.m. And then we have a new track session on a Thursday morning, 5 a.m. start.
At Pizzy, is it?
At Pizzy Park.
Where's the swim for Wednesday?
The swim's at Miami Aquatic Centre as well. So all in that area, pretty central. But anyone is absolutely welcome to come. And yourself, you are welcome to come too.
I'll be there.
I want to see you there.
I'm running again. After High Rocks, I'm going through my High Rocks era. And then after that, I'm going to go to more of my running. Not when you can't run though. I actually know so many people say that. Like, what's the hardest part? Like, it's the running. So you got to be able to run.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. And hope everyone enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it. Thanks,
Thank you.